This podcast was recorded on the ancient lands of the Gadigal peoples of the Eora Nation in Australia. I wish to acknowledge their rich and continuing culture and pay respect to any First Nations people from anywhere in the world who may come to hear this podcast. We hope that we may all come to walk with gentle feet, strong minds, and compassionate hearts in this global village. Hello, it's Maggie Dent here, parenting educator, author, and champion of boys and men. And this is The Good Enough Dad, a podcast where I chat with committed, caring, sometimes confused, and often funny dads about all the ways they've discovered to be good enough at this parenting gig. My good enough dad today is two-time Walkley Award-winning journalist and international best-selling author, Trent Dalton. Trent's childhood had so many challenges, and when Trent was just 7, his mum was in prison for 2 years for dealing heroin, and he and his 3 brothers lived for a time with their grandparents and then eventually went to live with their alcoholic father in a housing commission house in Bracken Ridge on the outskirts of Brisbane. Trent fictionalised his difficult childhood to enormous success in his debut novel, Boy Swallows Universe. The book was later adapted as an excellent TV series. I absolutely loved it and was Netflix's most successful Australian-made show. Another of Trent's books, Love Stories, has been adapted as a play and is set to tour in September 2025, which is also when the next and 4th novel, Gravity, Let Me Go, is due out. Trent writes about hard, gritty, often uncomfortable stuff, and yet his hope, optimism and enthusiasm for life shines through in all his work. He often attributes this turn towards hope to his wife, Fiona Franzmann, a fellow journalist he met 25 years ago. These days, he and Fee live in Brisbane with 2 teen daughters, Beth, 17, and Sylvia, 15. Trent, welcome to The Good Enough Dad.
Maggie, it's an honour to be here with you. It's one of my favourite topics, fatherhood. So it's beautiful to be on your podcast.
Okay, so you have teen girls. So I'm just curious because I only raised feral boys. How was this morning? Was it a smooth takeoff?
Oh, you've caught us at a perfect time. Last night, it's a good example of our daily lives. Last night, I came home late because I was doing a speech at the Australian Booksellers Association Awards in our Brisbane City Hall. And then I came home. My youngest daughter was doing some assignments, and she's now sort of into her last week of term. So she's happy as Larry, and I just dropped her at the bus stop. And our eldest daughter has sort of finished her uni kind of period, like the exams for uni. So it's a really nice, relaxed kind of week we're about to sort of kick into, moving into maybe mid-year holidays. And then I am about to sit down with that amazing woman you mentioned, Fiona, and we're going to work on a script that we're working on together with the great PJ Hogan of Muriel's Wedding and My Best Friend's Wedding fame. And so, yeah, it's a sort of a slice, and it's just a beautiful, sunny, breezy day, and it's one of those lovely winter kind of times where, it's just the 4 of us doing our own thing, and it's a good time of year.
So got to embrace those moments, don't we? Because any time, crap can happen any time. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Seriously. So Trent, your childhood, is pretty well documented, but for people who aren't as familiar with your work, can you paint us a bit of a picture of that childhood? And then growing up with 3 brothers. So that sounds a bit familiar to me.
Is that, you got 3? You got
4 boys.
Oh, really? Oh, that's beautiful. I love that topic because it's just those boys were as much fathers to me. Like, I get very emotional even just thinking about them, Maggie, and I don't even talk about them anywhere near enough. But you described it like it's true, and I cringe when I hear those things. When you did that intro, to be honest, I cringe. I go, oh Lord, what have I done? But it's true, and I'm really getting better at embracing it now. And it's because I highlight the beauty of that. Like, I'm here to kind of the thing I like most about doing chats like this is that I can tell people about the love that it can actually happen between people who go to prison or people who drink too much and so but I'll you asked me about what it was like. My first memory is father related. I'm 3 years old. It's as far back as I go, Maggie. I'm 3 years old. I'm sitting on a brown leather lounge in a outskirts of Brisbane, place called Ipswich. And it's a low set rambling home, but inside it, we've got like really good furnishings and lots of expensive stuff. And I'd find out why later. But I look at my right thumb. I've got a freckle. This is in the memory. I've got a freckle on my right thumb. I'm wearing a yellow and brown shirt. It was the shirt I wore all the time in the 80s, in like the early 80s. And I turn to my left, and there's this tattooed man who looks a bit like John Lennon, except more muscular. And he's wearing like Jackie House singlet and like rubber thongs. And I turn to this guy and I go, "I love you, Dad." And this guy turns back to me. He goes, "I love you too, mate." But and he ruffles my hair and he's like, "I love you too, mate, but I'm not your dad." And it was like this groundbreaking moment. And that was the first father figure I ever had in my life. And that was this guy who I write about in Boy Swallows Universe. I call him Lyle in the book. He was just the guy that my mum had fallen in love with, Maggie, in the 80s. And he was kind of helping to raise us 4 boys. And he was a heroin dealer, and you're absolutely kind of right. It all went south as it kind of needed to. But that was a beautiful time, like that early stage. It was it was sort of gangster stuff, but I saw none of it. And it was only love and BMXs and Star Wars figurines for me. I would find out later as a journalist that the people coming around for pig on the spit barbecues and stuff were like some of Queensland's most dangerous criminals. And but all of that went south. And as you say, I will try and say when I talk about my mum having that time in her life, I always try and couch it in the bigger context of that's a blip. Like, please, anyone listening to this, like, I just want to honor my mum in the right way and remind everyone and any mum who goes to prison, it's a blip in their life. And I talk about these things because I want to really stress the importance of giving love to mums who, in particular, like prisoner mums who have to get removed from the love of their kids, and prisoner dads, and it's like, it can be a blip in their radar. It doesn't have to define them. So anything I'm about to say is not at all define my mum. She's the most incredible grandma and to my kids right now, and she's retired and led an incredibly colourful and wonderful life. And the 80s were just a little chapter. But yeah, she went away, and then the Dalton boys went over to the north side of Brisbane, Maggie, and that's where I met my beautiful kind of real dad, Noel, who's just, my hero.
There's no question the love from your mum and the love your mum had for you boys is right there in every.
Oh, thanks, Maggie.
No question. Yeah. But I'm going to chuckle at one thing you've just said, and that is that you had a favourite shirt. I talk a lot when I'm talking to mums.
Yeah.
That there's a sensitivity with boys, and they often develop a favourite, whether it's a favourite pair of undies or a favourite T-shirt. And it's not a sign that they're grubby. It's a sign they have a deep feeling for things that are special, right? So I'm glad you had a special one that you could wear for whatever.
Maggie, I believe in it. You wouldn't. I could spend an hour telling you how deep that went. I did have a favourite pair of undies. I had a favourite pair of socks, my lucky socks. That freckle I'm telling you about is my lucky freckle. I don't know why I was attaching. I sort of talk about it a bit in the book. The kid loses his finger, and he thinks he's lost his lucky finger, which has the lucky freckle on it. And I don't know what I'm trying to say there about, and I think subconsciously I'm trying to get the message across of course, buddy, you didn't realize when you were 12, but it wasn't all these material things that you were attaching meaning to. It was actually the love you have in your heart and the love that's around you, and that's the whole message of that book. But it's amazing that you tapped into that. That's really beautiful. Yeah.
It's one of the things that once I've explained that to mums, and they don't throw out old stuff that look tacky, or they don't throw out like the sticks under the bed. They can be treasures, right? So it's a really important lens in that. Now, okay, so I can imagine 4 feral boys on BMX bikes.
Nailed it, exactly.
What else? Yeah.
Oh,
there's a lot of water around Brizzy.
Oh, Maggie, water, constant sprinklers. I mean, barefoot ruffian kids. But in our world, okay, like total dreamers, Arthurian legends, swords and shields that we fashioned ourselves. And we literally, my brother Joel has been King Arthur in my life for I'm 46 now and he's 50. And he's totally King Arthur, and the next one down, Ben, is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the next one down, Jesse, is Oscar Wilde, and it's totally been that forever. But our childhoods were quite weird because we would do things like we'd do plays and stage like just amazing battles, and just we were very creative, but we had extra interesting things, like, for example, the day when we all found a secret room under this guy Lyle. I call him Lyle, that's not his real name. This guy's bedroom that my mum was in love with. We found a secret room with a hole in the back of this guy's built-in wardrobe, in which my brother Joel one day put his bare ruffian Queensland barefoot dirty feet in and disappeared. And then Ben disappeared after him, and then Jesse and I put our heads through this chasm that is in his built-in wardrobe and saw my brothers there with nothing but a rotary dial red telephone that's inside this secret room. And they're just going, hey, you want to call someone? You want to speak to someone? And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, what things are the adults not telling us, And that was the story of our lives. And then a really good friend of mine when I was a kid was this guy Slim, who was genuinely one of the most notorious prison escapees from Queensland's Boggo Road prison, which is the most notorious prison we've ever had. And it was sort of like that. Like, it was what I'm trying to say, Maggie. It was, if you want to know my childhood, it was just complete wonder mixed with like veiled darkness, like shielded darkness, and it's sort of like darkness that I would later discover was, wow, yeah, we were really on the edge of some stuff there. Yeah.
And it's the fantasy and the real. Well, that's actually what you're supposed to do as boys, and that kind of would have probably in some weird way protected you.
It absolutely was my...
and prepared you for a great career later.
Yeah, no, I think that ability, I mean, look, the darker stuff when, I'm talking later in the 90s more, stuff my mum endured, it would be horrific if I went there, but it was, I'm talking violence against her by one incredibly horrible man in particular, that the ability to know that that's happening and then take yourself off somewhere else is became a superpower for us boys,
exactly,
and
survival instinct. So
yeah.
When was it that your parents actually split up? How old were you?
Before my time, like I don't even remember them as a unit, I talk about it. There's this incredible scene, Maggie. I've watched the show of Boy Swallows Universe. I've only been able to watch it once in full. Yeah. But I've taken to do this dorky thing on a Friday night. I'll watch the football, and then the Fee and the kids will go to bed or something, and it'll be just me in the lounge room. And I go to this one scene, Maggie, that's at the end of Boy Swallows Universe, and it's so dorky, it's so ridiculous, and I didn't even put it in the book, but it's the most ordinary scene in a show that's filled with violence and drug addiction and prisons and gangsters or whatever. The most boring scene in that whole series is the final minute, and it's just a simple scene of a mum, a dad, and the boys having a weeknight dinner in the summer in the suburbs, and there's no noise, there's nothing breaking. It's just a family sitting down for like steak and 3 veg, and it's like, that's the scene I go to and watch the most. And it's like that. So like I sometimes, like, it's a beautiful, like I just never saw mum and dad together. And well, until there was this time where mum came back to live, like she was in a real in trouble. And my beautiful dad, as awkward as it was for him, said, hey, you can come get yourself together here. And I'm going to cry. It was very troubling for him to do that. But he took her in, and she got back on her feet for this 6 months. And in this 6 months, Maggie, it was over at Bracken Ridge in this housing commission home where dad raised us boys. And that 6 months was where I saw them as a couple. Like, it was unbelievable. Like, they had a shorthand, and I was like, what are you two doing? I've never seen dad talk so sweetly to someone or I've never seen mum talk with such a shorthand with someone. It was the most beautiful thing. So sorry, that's a long answer to the question, but no, I didn't. And they had, I think I must have been maybe 1 or 2 when they divorced.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I love the way you talk about your dad because, how many of us have had parents who've had demons and have had to deal with. So you spoke very fondly about him, and what do you think you learned from him about being a dad?
Oh man, he kind of for all I just really need to stress, it's like the poor bugger. I kind of in a 400-page book, you've only got the dramatic stuff to put in there. I don't have the 18 years that he took me to manhood, Maggie. And I mean, but I'm not sugarcoating that either. He had his demons, and he was like, he lent on, a thing that I think is in my blood and is in a strain of us Dalton boys. We're just sort of kind of prone to be like Irish drinker types, and but always a worry, but. And he had that, and he had this beast in him. But boy, Maggie, like he was so beautiful and tender. Like he had this other, I'm telling you, 5 days of the week. He was just an incredibly beautiful, loving human being who, he led with love. That's what he taught me, Maggie. Like, and he puts me to shame with how present he was. So he couldn't hold down a job. The guy, you got to understand, the guy had like. He literally had the words F you, and he had it properly spelt out and tattooed on the inside of his bottom lip. And like, that's a sign of his attitude to life sometimes. He was such a rebel, but yet he was like into James Joyce, and had read every book, in Brackenridge. Every book that you could find in Brackenridge, my dad read it. And so he was this incredibly well-read rebel. He should have been the lead singer of the Rolling Stones, but the job was taken, and it's like, but Maggie, he had a beautiful job, and it was oh man, it was just being a dad to us. And his big thing, my granddad was a rat of Tobruk, like a really heroic, unbelievable. He lost a leg, and my granddad was famous in our little hood, which is this place called Sandgate and Brackenridge. It's all northern suburbs of Brisbane, near Redcliffe and the Horningbrook Bridge, and anyone from Queensland will know these places. But my granddad Vic was famous for being the guy who ran on the beach. He would hop along the beach on one leg, and he had 4 kids, with his kids youngest being my dad. And my dad always wanted to go to the Vietnam War, and he got pulled out by Whitlam just before, like the Aussie soldiers got pulled out, and he didn't go. And Dad was always like, he's sometimes getting on the drink and bemoaning that happened, that he never got to go do his bit for Vietnam. And I was like, Dad, stop it, because you might have gotten freaking blown up over there, and you wouldn't have been able to do this thing that I think you're brilliant at, which is be my dad, And it was, I always resented this sort of war lust that he had, and I was just like, Dad, you kidding me? You wouldn't be here to sort of teach me so many things if you might have gone over there and gotten killed.
That's what came across in the book, is that there were times when he was, like really unavailable. When he was present, there was a tenderness in the presence, and now we know, it's not always what you do, it's how you be.
Oh, really?
Children. So isn't that interesting? Like, he was way ahead of his time, but also the fact he was a man who read so deeply, has to have shaped him in other ways. And yet, there were wounds and demons that he struggled with. So, what have you chosen? Good. Sorry, you want?
No, he had a romance. Like, he was the guy who taught me romance. Like he would even when he was drinking, like it was. He was toasting mum. He was toasting his lost love. Like, it was like, he'd do this whale song singing at midnight, and he'd go like, oh, and it was just so romantic and just sort of so filled with love, and heartbreak. And he taught me deep things about feeling, and but also he was in danger of teaching me to be too hard, like it was almost like, Trent, wake up to the reality of the life you're in, mate, and you need to get tougher. Like, I cried all the time, Maggie. I was of the 4 boys, I was easily the waterworks kid, And but Dad was always like, you need to toughen up because this life is tough, man. And like you were kind of raised into a kind of tough world. But then I think as he got older, he realized, no, that might actually be the thing that might save me, you know, and that tenderness and that emotion, kind of an emotional connection to stuff is kind of the thing that got me a job and thing that I made me an okay journalist, you know. And anyway, yeah, so sorry if I go on because I love talking about that guy. He fascinates me still, yeah.
So what have you chosen to do differently with Beth and Sylvie as their dad? Obviously, you've got the tenderness part. So what are you doing differently?
Well, for me, I'm one big overcorrection. This is my sort of the danger, Maggie. I know if you're I'm sure you're familiar with this. Maybe like I just overcorrected way too much. So it's like it's too much. You know, it's like, can I help you? Can I help you with that? Can I? You know, my dad was brilliant at just going, good luck, mate. Good luck. You know, I hope you do well. Whereas I'm like, hey, and what do you need? And hey, forget about, actually, I'll do that for you. I'll do that. And I remember there was like a year 3 teacher for my youngest daughter. She was like parent teacher thing or something. She's like literally looking at me going, you do too much for your daughter. Like she was like, you do too much. And I was like, oh, do I? Okay. So that's what I do differently, but that all comes from such a deep place. Like that's just coming from, I'm very much aware of where that comes from. And, but I'll tell you what I do differently, Maggie, is, you know, what I didn't tell you is that like, you know, that when Dad was on the Terps, the thing I'd love the most is that at about 2 a.m., it'd take till about 2 a.m. for him to do this. And you'd come out and you'd tell him to turn the music down or something. But then that's when he'd call you over and he'd go like, hey, come here. And I'd freaking put my cheek against his like bloody 5 o'clock shadow and I'd just have that hug that we never had. And I'd effing cry, Maggie. I'd like cry into his shoulder. And, you know, Dad's gone now and I'd freaking give anything for one of those. But that was so funny that it took like 2 a.m. after a, you know, significant amount of beers to sort of get to that kind of emotional connection with Dad. And then by the time he was sort of leaving this earth, he got emphysema in the end from too many smokes. And I used to just go up to him I'm talking in my early 30s. I just come here, don't shy away. And it was a big thing in our lives. And oh my God, don't even get me started on, you know, the you know, I wrote about this.
The alcohol really in some way allowed your dad to drop the, you know, patriarchal, you have to be tough, you have to be stoic, don't look like you have got the, you know, you don't want to hug and touch. And look at that, 2 o'clock in the morning, that mask fell down and you were able to see that, even though it came through a wound. It's just, so what do you think he would think if he had seen or, you know, had read Boy Swallows the Universe? What do you think he would have think?
Oh, that's the deepest question in my life, Maggie. That's the deepest. That is as deep as I get as a man today. I ask my brother Ben about this all the time. Ben, I call him Obi-Wan for a reason. He's my go-to guy for just to help me out in life and fatherhood. And we'll be sitting around his like outdoor campfire and I'll go, hey man, honestly, what do you think Dad would have made of that book? Because him passing freed me up to write freely about that time. There's no doubt about it. But I wanted to write a tribute to him as well. Like it's an absolute, I have no qualms about how I wrote that character who's incredibly based upon my dad. And Simon Baker ended up playing him in the TV show. And my dad would go, he would do this, Maggie. He would go, oh, geez, you're a bit rough on, you know, that was a bit rough that, you know, it wasn't that bad, was it? And, or what, you know, some scenes that I wrote where it's like, and, it, you know, like he's on the floor. I think there's a scene in it where the kid, we used to do this, like write little messages for Dad in his own vomit, like, you know, sort your shit out, Dad, you know. And, but he would also, Maggie, I swear to God, he to see my book in a bookstore on a shelf with Steinbeck and Tolkien and Faulkner, it would be too overwhelming for him. And to see what he was my biggest supporter in journalism. Like he would write me he wrote a text the way Clint Eastwood speaks. He would just send these 2-word like, nailed it. You got that one. And, and he'd send them on a Saturday morning after I wrote some article. And if his thoughts about the way this beautiful country has kind of responded to some things I've written in book form, it would be the most beautiful thing for him. And then he sent me before he passed, like I remember one day, Maggie, I went to my letterbox here and we're like inner city, suburbs of Brisbane and I opened the letterbox one day and it was just a letter. It was a note from Dad. It's my favorite, most treasured material possession. It's covered in sticky tape, like my own version of Contact. And it said, Dear Trent, you have been a revelation. You have done all the right things. Love, Dad. And sorry, I'm highly emotional because it's just the most beautiful thing. And I just thought, what a guy to kind of say that to his younger son, because he used to always say like, don't follow in my footsteps. Don't do what I did. And it's like, well, mate, you're the guy who made it happen. You know what I mean? You're the guy who raised the kids, you're the guy who did it. You and Mum, like all of that stuff is the reason why it all worked for me, all of that stuff.
So I'm really finding that quite emotional because my own dad was kind of like, that for me in so many ways. And he never he was actually brilliant at writing and all those sorts of things. But never ever got to see any one of my books. He'd already gone. So I kind of got
mate, isn't it an
emotional.
ache? Isn't it just one of the great aches?
And I know what he would say. He would say, "That's my girl." That's what. Oh, so I know what he'd say. Woof! It got me. Anyway.
Oh, Maggie. Hey, I know. Hey, man. I can only. I don't know. I don't. I've got very complex thoughts on what happens and where it all goes. But man, if there is some outcome where he gets to see you doing your thing.
What is your biggest fear when it comes to being a dad for your beautiful girls today?
I think my biggest fear is that they lose interest in me. I think, I just that sense of just like, oh man, God, I'm so emotional, but it's like I feel right now, like, and we have such a close bond, and I just want that to stay until I'm 80, Maggie. You know what I mean? I just want them to be interested in me, like just interested enough to just spend time and just like kind of because we hang out like last night I was with my eldest daughter and it was just ridiculous, and we shouldn't have been. We both had sort of, sometimes we just meet at the couch. And I'd come back from this event thing, and I was just winding down, and we found ourselves. We did on YouTube. I played the top 20 one-hit wonders of the 1990s, and then she played the top 20 one-hit wonders of the 2010s. And it was beautiful because we got to reminisce on all the songs she had, because she's 18 now. Like, this is where maybe it's getting emotional for me, because it's not like I know you would, the job's never done, but it's like we've kind of crossed a threshold this year. We had a bit of a threshold moment this year, and I just know we're really interested in each other, and we are like that as a family unit. We go to like festivals together as a 4-person unit. We say it all the time. As a family, we love nothing more than just us 4 going to places, and I just am terrified that they'll not want to be doing that, and not want to just hang with Dad. And like my favorite thing is to sit with and watch my daughters just like play guitar and sing, or we all listen to music and be silly. And it's like if I had a fear, it's that.
I'm reassuring you.
Yeah, please reassure me.
The depth of your connection from now up to now is exactly what continues later on. There's no question. Even if they fall in love with a amazing hunk and travel the world, they will always hunger for their dad's connection. When it's been positive, it's absolutely, and it's profound. It's a profound connection for girls. So, all
Maggie,
right, so I'm going to go to
that's so good to know.
Easier.
Don't get me so flippant emotional, but that's a beautiful thought.
It is.
Honestly, Maggie, if I had anything in my life, that would be it. That I just don't screw it up, and that I keep everything together enough for Fee and I to be a place where they want to come. Anyway, so that's really beautiful to think. That's a good future. That's a good future.
We know you're a loving dad, and there are so many things that I can hear you've done already. But I want to know, because to be a good enough dad, you can't be perfect. So I want to know, what do you think might be one of your big fails or muck up moments that you can share so that everyone sees you're human?
Oh no, and please don't get me wrong. It's a constant thing, to the point where I'm very. It's weird because I've analysed myself so much, Maggie, and I've read so much about my own baggage, and so I've learned to be nothing but just really like, I'll go like, oh man, I really effed up. I'm so sorry, girls. Like, can you tell me how I could do that better? But just off the top of the head, and there's many, but my need to be good cop is terrible. It's incredibly frustrating to my wife. And that all stems, I think, from being a people pleaser, youngest brother, trying to make people in my youth
give me an
happy.
example. Come on.
Well, you need to do the chores that that we asked you to do. You haven't done that yet, but I did them for you this time, but next time, and then Fee will come home and like, what the God, I told you they had to do that, and then it's Fee coming in going, it's that sort of thing. Can we go to the park? Okay, good example. They've got stuff to do. They shouldn't have gone to the party. They should have been doing their modern history assignment, but they came to me and said, can I go to, Libby's party? And I said yes, because I'm being flippin' good cop. And then it just caused all sorts of problems, because the assignment then didn't get done. And you know what I mean? And it's that. It's like, right. And I'm working on it. The biggest thing for me, Maggie, and then I do this thing where, and I'm trying to get better at it, I swear, but I do the thing where I'll wait, like don't bring dad into the conflict. Like let's say there's some sort of conflict or some argument going on between, the kids or whatever. This is way back and this is now. This has just been a consistent thing. And I will come in with the raised voice. Like I'll wait and like don't bring dad in until, like I'll hold my powder, like keep my gunpowder dry, and then come in too high. Like come in unnecessarily, like, all right, enough of this, and it's just like, and they're just like, holy shit, Dad, what the hell? You didn't have to get that angry, but it's because I've heard the whole thing, just coming, like not modulating things right. And it fails every time when I come in hard and strong, trying to be this sort of scary dad, fails every time. And every time I've ever just come in and gone, hey, can we sit down and just let me sit beside you on your bed? Can we talk about what is going on and what started that, and just listen? And, every time it's just works.
All right. So now, equally difficult question is, you've got to choose one thing that you have done, maybe one experience where you absolutely nailed it and just went, yeah, best dad ever. Where's that moment?
I've done it a couple of times where
a couple, good.
Just a couple, not too many. There's literally, like, I can count them on my hand, Maggie, where I feel like I really nailed it. But just you know what I do? I've solved problems that my daughters have had by saying I have that problem too. Like I've done that a couple of times where it's like, oh shit, kid, I'm sorry that you got that from me. You can't say no, and you've said yes to all these things. And it's like, I'm so sorry. I passed that down to you. Have you not seen that causes the greatest stress in my marriage? Like that is, you've seen that for 18 years, that thing where I've said yes to some stupid schedule thing that has caused great problems in our life because I'm not focusing on the key people that I should be focusing on. Well, that's me. I'm sorry. And then I can also what I'm trying to say is, Maggie, like I've felt like I've really nailed it when I've used my curses as blessings. I've used the things like my worry streak, right? Like I go, and I can go and sit down with the girls and go, hey, I can see you're really worried about that, but let me tell you about worry. These things will pass, and all of this stuff. Like I'll say these things like, your time will come. You missed out on this thing, but man, here's the thing about time, and here's because I've learned this, Maggie, like sometimes the hard way, but it's like your spotlight might not hit at 15. Don't you worry about that, man. You might even want that spotlight to hit at 15. You know, you might not want that great thing to happen in your life at 15. You know, you want to hold that light and let that thing shine when you're 45. Now that's living, you know, like, and that sort of stuff. And those conversations, Mac, when the girls kind of look at me on rare occasions when they've done it, it's so flipping beautiful. And they're like, yeah, thanks.
And I love,
thanks, Dad.
You do realise that your people-pleasing behaviour is pretty classic for those who've experienced a sense of unworthiness as a child. So it's a way.
Oh, really?
But there's.
Am I just a total cliche? Am I just like?
Hello, this is a recovering people pleaser right here.
Yeah,
but also
thanks, mate.
It comes from a genuine place of modelling kindness, and
yeah,
you're a dad to do that. So we can't beat the hell out of ourselves. The person we had to work out how to be kind to is ourselves, and that's a little bit trickier. So
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Oh,
all
heck
right.
yeah.
Another really tough question coming.
Yeah, I love these questions. Yeah.
Righto. You're only allowed to choose one thing, but what is one thing that you want your girls to learn from you because you are their dad?
Oh, that's beautiful. Like, please know that inside you carry a little pilot light, and it's a flame, and it's a. Sorry, why am I getting so emotional? I think I'm. You have a flame, a little pilot light, and that flame has been passed down from your grandparents to your parents to you, and it will never go out. It might flicker, but it will never go out. And this is stuff, like, this is prison stuff. This is stuff my mum knew, you know, like, this is like the things I want them to take from all my nonsense, all my writings about my life and all that is, I am actually trying to show them in various ways, like you have a fire in you, you know, and don't think for a second that dark stuff that you're going to face in life is not to be embraced, you know, because your darkest day may not be, you know, the ending of you. It may actually be the making of you. And I just really try and talk in those big themes like that. And it's like, I hope they take that, like, on the really sad days that they're going to face in life, you know, and I'm always about that. It's just like, no, that shit stuff is actually sometimes the good stuff. And it's actually what you know, that's what the whole name Boyceweller's Universe was all about. Like, swallow all the shit, just take it down, cough it back up as light and stars and purples and pinks and fireworks, you know, and it's like, I hope they take some of that. Like, I'm always banging on about that stuff, and I hope they do remember that, yeah, because of the things that they have seen with their own dad, you know.
Which is a profound message of hope, which I love. So your last question, this isn't really difficult at all. So if you could go back to before you had the girls,
yeah,
what advice would you have for Trent before he became a dad?
Oh, man. Stop waiting. Firstly, stop waiting, jump in. Like, I had this thing in my head, Maggie, that I had to sort of get a house or be a provider and be ready, you know, be really ready and kind of, you know, Fee and I had been together for 6 years before we had kids. And it was like, what was I waiting for? You know, I felt like I had to be this certain man. And I just like, man, if I could have even jumped, I mean, you know, it all worked out perfect. I had a kid at 27 or something. I think I was 27. So and I love that because you know, that enabled me I was able to run around and do all that stuff. But I just say, stop waiting. You are ready. I mean, you're never going to be ready, but you actually are ready. And 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 then it's tough because the biggest problem for me and the biggest tough parts about parenting was my ambition. I had this really strong ambition as a journo, Maggie, when in my late 20s. After the girls were born, as they were growing, my ambition grew. Like it was like, I am gonna provide so much for them.
Yes.
So that means I'm gonna go to China on that journalism assignment, or I'm gonna go to Afghanistan on that journalism assignment. It's gonna actually take me away from the reason I'm doing it for, and that realization that they didn't need any of that shit.
Yeah.
They didn't need any of the stuff you thought you were providing. They just needed you, and that's what my dad knew. My dad knew he wasn't able to give us anything like material. He just gave us himself. He just gave him. He gave us dad. And that's what I'd tell my younger self. Like, just, mate, all they want is you, man. All they want is you. They'll tell you they need the computer or whatever, but they actually just want you. Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's so beautiful, and it is a dilemma so many dads tell me about, and you can understand the biological wiring, because when you've delivered these beautiful humans, you are now wired to want to protect and provide for them like you cannot believe. So that often means you're going to work 10 times harder to provide more, but if it takes you away from home, it's this really, and that's
isn't it wild? What a paradox! It's so
work-life balance. It is. It's a real thing, and so but when you air it and own it and prioritize it, then you can be.
Well, it's still the biggest thing in our house. It's still the biggest discussion. It still is, and I can't get away from it. It's terrible, man. I'm trying to work on it.
Well, Trent, thank you. We've both been quite emotional during this chat, but I just want to say thanks for being the good enough dad and sharing this amazing journey with us.
Well, thanks for even just the title of your podcast. I think it's a beautiful title because it's a good reminder for all of us dads just to, like, that's all you have to be. Like, you don't have to be super dad. Good enough is pretty fine. Yeah. So, no, thank you, Maggie. I've loved it. I've actually loved it because it just reminds me of everything I'm here for, which is just so good. So thanks, Maggie. It's an honor.
Yay!
Best-selling author, storyteller, and all-round good bloke, Trent Dalton. Wow, it was a bit hard to pick a few nuggets of wisdom from this wonderfully warm chat. However, there were a few things that Trent touched on that we felt we needed to add to our Good Enough Dad checklist. Firstly, sometimes using your struggles and possibly your curses can be a teachable moment for your own family, and they can be seen as blessings. Secondly, parents can have really big struggles in their lives, just as Trent's dad and mum did, and yet he knew that love was still there, no matter what. And thirdly, no matter how challenging life can be, and we never know what's going to turn up, you can always land on hope, just as Trent and his mum did. I'm Maggie Dent, and this is The Good Enough Dad. Please subscribe and rate this podcast. It means more people will find it, and we might have to do another series.